The gift no one expected. In the far future, humans had started living on different planets. One of these human colony ships, called Hope's Path, was traveling through deep space when it was suddenly attacked by unknown forces. The ship was badly damaged, systems failed, and they crash-landed on a strange planet. This planet was not empty. As the survivors of Hope's Path gathered their strength, they saw strange, tall figures watching them from the shadows. These beings were not human. Their skin was silver blue, their eyes glowed, and they spoke in a language no one understood. People called them the Vahari. They were known in some parts of space as warriors and killers. Captain Rourke, the leader of the human survivors, knew they had no weapons, no food, and no way to escape. The Vahari were powerful, and humans were weak. They had to find a way to survive. "We must give them something," he said to the others in a cold voice. "Something to show we come in peace." The crew looked confused. One man asked, "What do we have that they want?" Rourke's eyes scanned the group. He saw a young girl barely 20 years old standing quietly near the back. Her name was Alara. She was just a maintenance worker, smart, kind, and quiet. She had no family, no rank, no protection. Rourke smiled. "Her," he said. Gasps filled the air. Alara stepped back, fear in her eyes. "You can't be serious," one of the medics shouted. "She's just a girl. It's either her or all of us." Rourke replied, "Maybe they'll take her as a symbol of peace. Maybe they'll laugh. Either way, we buy time." And so, without her consent, they dressed Alara in a white robe and took her to the Vahari camp. The Vahari stood in silence as the humans pushed Alara forward. She looked around, her heart racing, but she kept her head high, even in fear. She refused to cry. The alien leader stepped forward. He was taller than the others. His armor shone like metal, and strange symbols moved across his skin like liquid light. He was the Emperor of the Vahari. He looked at Alara, then at Captain Rourke. He said something in his language, and a smaller Vahari translated, "What is this?" Rourke smiled nervously. "A gift, a symbol of peace between our people." There was a long silence. The Emperor turned to look at Alara again. She did not speak. She did not bow. She just stared at him with calm eyes. A strange look crossed the Emperor's face. Not anger, not laughter, curiosity. He spoke again. The translator said, "We accept." Rourke let out a sigh of relief, turned, and walked away with his team. They had done it. They had survived. But Alara was left behind. The Vahari took her into their camp. She expected chains, or maybe death. But nothing like that happened. Instead, she was given food, water, and a place to sleep. No one touched her. No one hurt her. They watched her like she was something strange and valuable. The next day, she was taken to a large room made of shining black stone. The Emperor was there, sitting on a throne made of silver bones. He looked at her and said something. The translator stood beside him. "Why did they give you away?" he asked. Lara stood tall, "Because they thought I was weak." The Emperor was silent for a long time. "Are you weak?" he asked. "No," she said. He nodded slowly. "We will see." Days passed. The Vahari did not treat her like a slave. They taught her their language, their customs, their history. Some mocked her, some feared her, but the Emperor often watched her in silence, like he was waiting for something. Lara did not understand his interest, but she knew one thing: she had to survive. And one day, she would return. That night, as Alara looked out from her small room at the stars above, the Emperor stood in the shadows behind her. He spoke softly in his deep voice. "You are not what they said you were." Alara turned her head, her voice calm. "Neither are you." The Emperor smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes. "Perhaps you belong here more than you know." The Queen in Chains. Days passed slowly. The air on the Vahari planet was colder now. Or maybe it just felt that way to Alara. She had been taken, abandoned, by her own kind, and handed to a species no human truly understood. The Vahari didn't chain her with metal. They used silence, walls without windows, guards who never spoke. It wasn't a prison made of stone. It was made of confusion, isolation, and eyes that never blinked. She didn't know if she was a guest, a prisoner, or something worse. Every morning, the Vahari guards would lead her through dark silver halls to a long chamber lit by floating blue crystals. There, the Emperor sat watching her, always watching. He never raised his voice. He never made demands, but he asked questions. Do humans always betray their own? Alara would answer quietly, not always. Why did they choose you? Because they thought I had no value. The Emperor seemed pleased by this, or amused. It was hard to tell. His face remained still, but his golden eyes held something sharp, something dangerous. One night, she woke to the sound of distant screams. She ran to the door. It opened before she could touch it. The guards were waiting, without a word. They took her through the twisting hallways again, deeper this time, into the shadows beneath the city. They entered a vast arena, hollow and black, where warriors trained, under the eyes of the Empire. Tonight, something different was happening. A prisoner stood in the center, a Vihari rebel, beaten, but not broken. He shouted in the Vihari tongue, full of rage and fire. He spat at the Emperor's name. The Emperor, sitting above the arena, motioned toward Alara. She was pushed forward. "What is this?" she whispered. A voice echoed from the speakers above. The translator. "He called you a slave. He said a human cannot walk among warriors. Show him he is wrong." Alara froze. She had never fought before, never held a weapon. A staff dropped at her feet. The rebel laughed. He was twice her size. "You want me to die?" she asked the shadows around her. No answer. So she picked up the staff. The fight was brutal. Her hands bled. Her ribs cracked. But she was fast. She was desperate, and something deep inside her refused to fall. Pain didn't stop her. Anger didn't stop her. She saw their faces watching, silent, serious. They didn't cheer. They didn't boo. But when Alara struck the final blow, knocking the rebel unconscious, there was a single sound. The Emperor tapping his fingers slowly on the throne. The next morning, she woke in a new room. It was not a prison. It was a chamber of light and soft air. Clothes had been left for her Vihari robes, simple but noble. The translator came. "You are now part of the Emperor's court," she said, "but not everyone agrees with his decision." And they did in single quotes T. Behind the stone walls. Whispers grew louder. "Why is a human girl in the high chambers? She's weak, soft, unclean. The Emperor must be going mad." But Alara did not speak to them. She learned. She listened. She watched. Soon, the Emperor allowed her to walk beside him during public speeches. She said nothing, but her presence made the people uncomfortable. Their stares were like cold knives, but she walked with her chin up. "You are becoming something they fear," the Emperor told her one evening. "Shall I be proud of that?" she asked. "You should be ready," he said. "They will not stop until you fall." And then came the trial. One of the Emperor's generals, a respected warrior named Tucker, publicly accused Alara of poisoning. Tradition, he demanded she be tested again in front of the people. "If she survives," he said, "she earns her place. And if I die," Alara asked him, "then history forgets you." The Emperor allowed it. The test was ancient, a ritual called the Flame Path, a narrow bridge across a pit of burning plasma. Only truth, courage, and perfect balance could lead one safely across. No human had ever tried it. As Alara stood before the pit, she felt her hands tremble. She looked at the Emperor. He gave no signal, no help. This was her battle. Step by step, she crossed the flame path. Her body burned with heat. The bridge shimmered with each breath. Her knees shook. Her thoughts screamed. But she kept walking, because, deep inside, a voice whispered, "You are more than they see." She reached the other side. The chamber went silent. And then, one by one, the warriors lowered their heads, not in anger, in respect. That night, the Emperor came to her chambers. He stood in silence, then offered her something no Vihari had ever given to a human, his personal signet, a symbol of trust. "You are no longer a gift," he said. "What am I now?" Alara asked. He looked into her eyes. "You are choice." Rise through Firelara no longer walked in silence. Her steps echoed through the halls of the Vihari palace like thunder in a quiet sky. Where once she was a forgotten girl, now she was a symbol of confusion, of fear, and perhaps a change. The Emperor's signet hung around her neck, a glowing silver emblem, pulsing with soft light. Only a few in history had ever worn it. None of them had been human. Many in the court remained silent, but their silence was sharp, like blades waiting to strike. Behind their calm faces were plans, alliances, and dangerous whispers. One night, as Alara sat in her chamber studying ancient Vihari scrolls, a small figure slipped through her door. It was a child. "What are you doing here?" Alara asked, her voice gentle. The child looked scared. "They say you're cursed." Do you think I'm cursed? The child shook her head. I think you'll fire. Before Alara could speak, the child was gone. That same week, a strange symbol appeared on the palace walls, not written in ink, but burned into stone. 3 jagged lines forming a claw, the mark of the Ashburn, a secret faction inside the Vahari Empire. They were ancient, believed to have died out during the old wars. But now they were rising again. They hated weakness, they hated outsiders, and they hated Alara. That night, the Emperor held a war council. His generals sat around a black stone table, a map of burning light between them. Borders of the Empire flashed red. Rebellion was spreading. The Ashburn have returned, said General Volek, a tall warrior with deep scars on his arms. And they will strike from within. Then we burn them out. Another general growled. But the Emperor raised a hand. No, he said. Fire cannot fight fire. It only spreads. His eyes moved to Alara, who stood at the edge of the room, silent but alert. You will go, he said. The general stirred. What? One spat. Send a human girl to hunt the Ashburn? This is madness. But the Emperor's voice was calm. They already want her dead. Let them try. Alara was given a small team, 4 Vahari warriors, each one chosen for loyalty over pride. They didn't trust her. She didn't blame them, but she didn't need their trust, only their skill. They flew to the outer ring of the Empire, where the sky was always dark and the ground smoked like sleeping volcanoes. There, hidden beneath broken stone and shadowed hills, they found the Ashbourne's temple. We entered together, Alara said. The warriors hesitated, but followed. The temple was filled with strange statues, half human, half Vahari forms with hollow eyes. The walls were covered in carvings that twisted as they moved, like they were alive. And then the first trap was triggered. Flames shot from the floor, blades from the walls. One of the warriors fell, sliced before he could scream. Alara didn't flinch. They moved forward, step by careful step, until they reached a large chamber where a single figure waited. He wore a mask made of bone. Ash drifted from his shoulders, like smoke. You shouldn't be here, he said. And yet, here I am, Alara replied. You wear his mark, the masked man said. But you are not Vahari. No, I am more, she said. The man laughed. We were created to protect the Empire. But now, he lets a human lead. No, we will burn him. And you, his hands raised. The room came alive. Shadows moved. 10 more Ashburn appeared from the walls like ghosts. Elara looked at her warriors. Don't hold back. The fight was brutal. Elara moved like she had trained for years. Each strike had purpose. Each dodge was survival. Her staff broke bones. Her will broke fear. In the chaos, she faced the masked man alone. He was strong, fast, and filled with hate. You are just a gift, he growled. Alara gritted her teeth. I was a gift. Now I'm a flame. With a roar, she struck his mask, breaking it in half. Beneath it, he was barely older than she was. His face held rage, but also pain. You think this empire will accept you? He gasped. They will never be yours. Alara leaned close. Then I'll build one they can't ignore. She left the Ashburn temple in ruins. 2 more warriors had died, but the empire had its message. She wasn't just alive. She was rising. When they returned to the palace, the emperor stood waiting. No smile, no celebration. But he said only 3 words. You did well. Later, in her chamber, Alara stood at the window. She looked at the stars, where Earth once waited. She whispered to herself, they gave me away. Now they'll beg for my name. But someone was listening. A shadow moved in the darkness behind her door. Someone new had arrived. From Earth. And he knew who Alara used to be. The betrayal of blood palace air had changed. There was something cold now beneath the stone, beneath the silence. Even the guards walked slower, more careful, like they could feel it too. Alara stood in the Emperor's council chamber, reading from a digital tablet. Maps, troop reports, coded messages. Her days were full of war and strategy now. She was no longer the gift girl. She was the Emperor's advisor, and for many, his equal. But today, something was wrong. A signal had arrived. From Earth. A ship requested entry, diplomatic clearance, human markings, and a name she hadn't heard in years. Captain Reese Dallin. Her breath caught in her throat. He had been part of Hope's path. One of the officers who'd stood there when they gave her away. Not the one who chose her, but the one who said nothing. The one who watched. He was here now. The emperor met with the diplomats in the crystal hall. Tall windows cast blue light across the marble floor. The human team stood stiffly, eyes wide at the alien world around them. Rhys Dallin stood in front, older now. His uniform was neat. His smile was polite, but Alara saw past all of it. His eyes widened the moment he saw her. He didn't say her name. He didn't even blink. "We come in peace," he said to the emperor. "We come to open trade, to share knowledge, and to offer alliance between the human worlds and your empire." The emperor was calm, unreadable. "And what do you offer in return?" Rhys smiled. "We bring gifts, technology, data, science, and something personal." He turned to Alara. "We bring you home." The room went silent. Alara did not move. "You left me," she said softly. "It wasn't my choice." Rhys replied quickly. "You know that. You know what Captain Rourke did." He panicked. "It was a mistake. A mistake," she repeated. Rhys stepped closer. "Alara, we searched for you. After the crash, after the war, we thought you were dead." Her voice was steady now. "You didn't even speak for me." His smile faded. "I was young, scared. It was chaos. But look at you now. You survived. You became something incredible." He leaned in slightly. "We need you, Alara. Earth needs you. You have power here, respect. We could use that. Together, we could bring peace between species, between worlds." The emperor was still silent, watching Alara turn her eyes to him, then back to Rhys. "This peace you offer, what's the real price?" Rhys paused. "There are some concerns. About the Vahari, about their weapons, their expansion. Earth would feel safer knowing you're with us." "Safer," she said, and then she understood. This was not a visit, it was a mission. They didn't come to honor her. They came to use her again. That night, Alara stood alone in the starlight, garden of the palace. The wind was cold, the plants glowing faintly with alien light. Her thoughts were louder than the world around her. A shadow stepped from behind a tree. It was Rhys. He held something small in his hand, a data chip. "This is proof," he said. "Plans, weapon codes, troop movements. Your emperor is preparing for expansion into human sectors. We need your help." "Espionage?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "Earth needs your eyes inside this empire. Give us information. You'll be protected, rich, powerful. You can come home, she whispered. She took the chip and looked down at it. Her hand was still, her face unreadable. Then she closed her fingers and crushed it. Bits of glass and metal fell to the ground. "Earth gave me away like trash," she said. "The Vahari gave me a choice." Rhys's smile faded. "So you choose them." She stepped closer. "I choose me." But in that moment, before she could react, he pressed a small button on his wrist. A blast tore through the garden. A drone had been hidden in orbit, silent, invisible. It struck the outer palace wall. Fire, screams, alarms, chaos. This had all been a distraction. Inside the palace, human agents disguised diplomats attacked the guards. They aimed for the throne, for the emperor. Alara ran. She reached the great hall just as the guards fell. The emperor stood alone, a spear in hand, blood on his arm. Across from him, 3 attackers advanced. Without pause, Alara threw herself into the fight, a blur of motion. Her staff cracked skulls. Her blade flashed. Pain struck her side, but she didn't fall. Finally, the last human fell, and the emperor collapsed. She caught him before he hit the ground. "I should have seen it," he whispered. "You trusted me." She said. His hand gripped hers. "You are no longer just a choice," he said. "Your legacy." His eyes closed. The next day, Rhys Dallin was brought before the council. Alara stood in armor of dark steel, marked with the emperor's blood seal. "You came to take what you lost," she said, "but I have already risen." She turned to the guards. "Show Earth what betrayal costs." And Rhys was taken away, not to prison. To the void. As the stars turned above the empire, a new voice gave orders. Alara now sat on the throne beside the emperor's empty seat. She had not taken power. She had earned it, and her enemies would soon learn. She did not forget. The heir of Two Worlds Empire was silent for 3 days. After the attack, after the betrayal, after the emperor fell, no one knew what would happen next. The throne stood empty, but Alara stood beside it. She did not wear a crown. She wore armor. The Vahari didn't believe in tears, but the people gathered in the thousands. They bowed their heads, not for grief, but for something deeper. Changed. And then the sky lit up again. But this time, it was not war. It was a signal. A message. Alara stood in the high tower as the stars shifted, revealing a symbol in lighter. Spiral sun, ancient and sacred. It meant one thing. The successor must rise. Months passed. Alara ruled with calm precision. Her decisions were sharp. Her justice was fair. She listened to generals, to scholars, even to farmers. But she kept one secret. Deep inside the emperor's former chamber, guarded by warriors and protected by energy seals, she was carrying a child. The child of the emperor, and of her. _VA Hari _human. No one in the galaxy had ever seen such a thing. The palace healers called the child a miracle. Others whispered the word curse. One night, as Alara lay in her private chamber, she stared at the stars and whispered to herself, "You will not be what they expect." She placed a hand on her stomach. "You will be more." But in the shadows of the outer colonies, something else was being born. A voice, a cult. They called themselves the Pure Flame. They believed the blood of the Empire must remain untouched. No mixing, no weakness, no human corruption. And they had only one goal. Kill the heir. Back in the palace, Alara trained harder than ever. Even as her body changed, her strength grew, her mind sharpened. She studied old codes, ancient prophecies, and stories of other worlds, and then came the dream. A strange one. She saw the child, not a baby but grown, standing in armor that shimmered between colors silver, red, and blue. The figure stood, alone on a battlefield of ash, holding the banners one of earth, one of the Empire. And behind them, a shadow moved. A voice whispered, "They will choose or destroy." Alara woke with a gasp. The next day, she summoned her most trusted guard, Valen, and said, "Double the watch. No one enters the chamber, not even me without your eyes on me." Valen nodded once. They will not pass. Weeks later, when the child was born, no one in the Empire could deny what they saw. His skin shimmered like moonlight. His eyes glowed violet, a color never seen before. And when he cried, strange symbols flickered on his back runes of power, of lineage, of legacy. The priests called him the Starburn. The people bowed, but the flames burned hotter now. One day, a message came from the outer colonies. A scout ship had vanished. No distress signal, no wreckage, just gone. The next day, a second report arrived. A city in the distant system of Con7 burned in one night. Survivors spoke of cloak ships, weapons that didn't fire beams but turned air into fire, and warriors with glowing marks on their faces. They spoke in whispers, one said, but their message was loud. Valen handed Alara the report. "They seek the child." Alara stood silent for a long time. Then she said, "We don't wait for war to come. We go to his doorstep." She left the child with 3 guardians, each sworn by blood and oath to protect him above all else. Then she boarded the Empire's fastest warship, Echo of Thunder, with her chosen strike team. They followed the destruction trail deep into dark space. There, in the silence between stars, they found a hidden station, black, cold, silent, floating like a dead heart. They entered. Inside, they found walls covered in old human writing and Vahari bones. "What is this place?" someone asked. Lara ran her fingers along the wall. "It was not built by the Empire," she said. A voice echoed in the chamber. "You see us now." They turned and saw something they couldn't understand. A figure, human-shaped, but made of smoke and light. Its face shifted constantly. Its voice was male and female and something else. "You gave birth to the key," it said. "Who are you?" Alara demanded. "We are the first," the voice replied. "Before the Empire, before Earth, before flesh." The lights dimmed. "Your child will awaken more than blood, more than power. What do you want?" she asked. "To test the air, to see if he is fire or ash." Then the figure vanished, and the station exploded. They escaped barely. When she returned to the Empire, things had changed. Rumors filled the air like poison. Some said the child glowed when he slept. Others said the throne room's pillars cracked when he cried. One rumor said the child spoke before he had teeth. But the most dangerous rumor of all, he is not just an heir. He is a weapon. And weapons can be used. Or destroyed. Lara stood over her son that night, watching him sleep. He looked peaceful, innocent. But her heart was heavy. She whispered, "You will lead them one day. Not just the Vahari, not just humans, but all those who fear what they don't understand." A pause. "But before that, I will burn every shadow that comes near you. Behind her, Valen entered. It's begun, he said. The pure flame moves in silence, and Earth, they've sent a message. Alara looked up. What does it say? Valen's eyes narrowed. They want the child. Asterisk return of the Forgo 10th stars above the Vihari capital flickered strangely that night. Some said it was just static from a passing comet. Others, especially the old ones, whispered something else. The void stirs. Alara stood on the balcony of the Tower of Flame, holding her son in her arms. The child, barely a year old, stared up at the stars like he knew what was coming. His name was Kellen. He did not cry. He rarely did. His eyes, glowing violet, blinked slowly, and in those eyes, Alara saw everything the universe feared. Power. Truth. Future. The next morning, a ship arrived. Earth's colors were painted across its wings, blue and white, bright and clean, like peace. But Alara didn't believe in colors anymore. Not since they gave her away, not since they asked for her child. Inside the ship, Earth's delegation waited. They were different from before, younger, smoother, and more controlled. No weapons visible, just smiles. At their center stood Ambassador Nora Vale, a tall woman with ice-gray eyes and a voice like soft rain. Empress Alara, she said with a respectful nod. You look stronger than the stories. I am, Alara replied. Say what you came to say. Nora smiled. Earth recognizes your role, your strength, your survival. We respect your journey, but we now ask for peace. Peace comes with a price, Alara said. Everything does, Nora answered. We offer trade, technology, shared space. Alara narrowed her eyes. What do you want in return? Nora's face didn't change. Kellen. The hall went silent. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Nora stepped forward. We don't ask to take him, only to study him, learn from him. He's unique. He could unlock a future of unity. Imagine human and Vihari blood together. One day, he could lead us all. You didn't want unity when I was offered like a pet, Alara said. You were an accident. Nora replied softly. He is a miracle. Alara took a step forward. You don't get to touch him. Hours later, Alara sat with her high council, generals, advisors, scientists. They all agreed Earth would not stop. Valen, now commander of her personal guard, leaned close. Let us strike first. Make an example. No, Alara said. War is easy. Control is harder. Then what? Valen asked. Alara turned to the great map of the Empire. We show them who we are, not with blood, but with truth. That night, Alara went to the vaults beneath the palace. Only the Emperor had ever gone there before. Inside, sealed in crystal and guarded by ancient codes, was something called the Mirror Seed, a living archive from before the Empire, created by the first Vihari. It held the memories of the galaxy before humans ever touched the stars. Alara placed her hand on the crystal. It pulsed once and opened. What she saw changed everything. Visions poured into her mind, futures that had already happened, and futures that could. She saw Kellen groan, standing between armies, his voice shaking the stars. She saw Earth burning. She saw her own face, older, broken, alone. But she also saw another truth. Earth's leaders had once known about the Vihari long before Hope's path ever crashed. They had made a deal. A trade. Elara was never a last-minute decision. She was the price. Her hands shook as she left the vault. They knew, she whispered. They knew before I was even born. When she returned to the throne room, Nora was waiting. You lied, Alara said. We did what we had to do, Nora replied calmly. You survived. Now let us benefit together. Alara walked slowly to the child's cradle, where Kellen lay watching them both. He's more than blood, she said, more than your curiosity. He's something the universe hasn't seen in 1,000 years, and that's why we need him, Nora whispered. You're strong, Alara, but you can't protect him forever. Alara turned sharply. I don't need forever. She raised her hand, and the lights in the room changed, every pillar glowing with hidden marks, symbols of the old empire. Her generals stepped in from every side. Nora's eyes widened. What are you doing? Ending the conversation, Alara said, Tell your council, Kellen is not your key. He is our flame. Nora turned to leave but paused. Be careful, Alara, she said. When you carry fire along, it burns everything, even you. After they left, Alara sat alone. Kellen crawled into her lap. His little hand touched her cheek. and for the first time, in a voice barely a whisper, he spoke. They're coming. Alara froze. Who? Kellen blinked. The old ones. The ones you forgot. And from somewhere far, far beyond known space, an ancient beacon lit up dot, not via hurry dot, not human dot, something older. Something that remembered Alara's blood and wanted it back. The Queen's judgment stars were shifting again, not slowly, like normal dot, not gently, like nature. They were moving, as if something behind them was waking up something old. Something that remembered when stars were young and cold. Lara watched the sky from the top of the obsidian tower. The wind whipped around her, but she stood still. Her son, Kellen, was inside the palace safe, protected by ancient shields and her most loyal guards. But deep down, she knew nothing was truly safe anymore, because something beyond the Empire, beyond Earth, had returned, and it wanted judgment. It began with silence. Entire systems went dark. No distress signals, no battle reports, just emptiness. Black holes where worlds used to shine. Len, her most trusted guard, entered the council room with his face pale. 10 colonies, he said, gone, not destroyed, erased. The generals argued. Panic started to rise. Lara raised a hand. We don't panic, we prepare. She had seen it once before in the mirror seed, the ancient archive buried beneath the palace. A race that came before time had names. They were called only one thing, the Forgotten. Not forgotten by accident but by design. They had ruled galaxies before the first humans stood upright. They had shaped the stars and then vanished, like a nightmare slipping back under the bed. But now, they remembered, and they wanted her son. That night, Alara stood over Kellen's sleeping form. The child no longer spoke like a baby. He had begun to dream in symbols, drawing languages that no human or Vahari had taught him. Why do they want you? She whispered, his glowing violet eyes open. Because I am not just from you, he said calmly. I am from them too. The words stabbed her heart. What do you mean? Their blood, he said. Their power is in me, part of the flame. Then he touched her chest. And you. It all came crashing down at once. A portal opened in deep space. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A mouth in the stars. Wide, endless, and pulsing with darkness. From it came beings of black light and shattered matter, tall, thin, flickering like smoke and fire stitched together. Their voices were not heard through ears, but minds. They spoke in memories and feelings. They spoke to Alara. We judged the stars before light was born. We gave life its fire, and now, you light-bearer, you must answer. Earth panicked. Their leaders begged for alliance. The Vahari Empire prepared for war, but Alara did not move. She stood on the edge of the balcony, facing the stars. And she spoke. I was given away. I was left behind. But I rose, and now I judge you. The final battle was not fought with only ships. Lara took the fleet of the Empire, a silent armada of black and gold, and flew straight into the mouth of the Forgotten. But as they entered the darkness, the ships started to vanish. One by one, until only hers remained. And in that silence, Kellen, her son, stood beside her. He had grown, almost too quickly. His body shimmered with light and heat. I can stop them, he said. Not alone, Alara whispered. He reached for her hand. And she took it. And in that moment, their minds merged, mother and son. Flame and blood, past and future. She saw everything. The Forgotten were not gods. They were afraid. Afraid of what came after them. Afraid of what they created and then abandoned. The spark of free will. And Kellen was the proof. That evolution had surpassed them. So Alara made her choice. She poured her entire being, her fire, her pain, her strength into her son. Be more than me, she said. Be more than all of them. He stepped into the core of the void and spoke in light. We are not your children. We are not your weapons. We are your end. And the darkness shattered. Light tore through the void like sunrise across a frozen sea. The Forgotten screamed and disappeared. Forever. The Empire saw the stars again. Earth saw the sky return. And on the world of Vahari Prime, a woman stood alone on a balcony. Her armor cracked, her eyes full of fire, her heart quiet. Kellen had returned, but different now. Part flame. Part future. But still, her son. He knelt before her and said, They called me heir, but you were the flame. And the people of two worlds, Earth and Vahari, gathered under one banner. Not a race. Not a planet, but of choice. Ela sat on the throne. not alone. Beside her stood her son, glowing with quiet power, and behind her, across the stars, the legacy. A betrayal was burned away. In its place stood something new. Not an empire. Not a war. A story of a girl given away who rose and rewrote the stars. The end.